In the 1980s, British haulage ran on a very different understanding of risk. Not because drivers didn't care about safety, but because the job demanded compromises that today would shut a truck down instantly. Rules existed, but enforcement was loose, expectations were high, and the road itself decided what was acceptable. What mattered most was getting the load there. Everything else came second. Drivers didn't think of these things as dangerous at the time. They were simply how the job worked. Everyone did them, everyone knew them, and if you didn't last long. One of the most common practices was driving far beyond what would now be legal hours. Tachographs existed, but enforcement was inconsistent and easily worked around. Charts were adjusted, swapped, or creatively interpreted. Long runs were planned on the assumption that the driver would push through. Fatigue wasn't discussed in official terms. You were tired because the job was tiring. You dealt with it. Coffee, cigarettes, cold air through an open window. Stopping because you were exhausted wasn't seen as responsible. It was seen as weak. Closely tied to that was the habit of taking breaks wherever you could, rather than where you should. Laybys, hard shoulders, industrial estates, quiet side roads. If you were tired, you pulled in. There were no formal rest areas like today, and no expectation that you would find one. Sleeping on the shoulder of a road with traffic rushing past was normal. Waking up to a knock on the door from another driver or the police wasn't unusual. It was risky, but it was practical, and practicality ruled everything. Loading practices in the 80s would horrify modern safety officers. Drivers often climbed on top of loads without harnesses or full protection. Curtainsiders were walked across. Flatbeds were scrambled over. You stood on pallets, straps, even loose freight, because that was how the job got done. Falls happened. Injuries were common. They were treated as part of the job rather than something that could have been prevented. Manual load restraint was another area where standards were far looser. Chains and straps were used inconsistently, often reused long past their safe life. Loads were secured by experience and judgment rather than calculation. You tightened things until they felt right. If something shifted, you adjusted your driving. The idea that a load would be formally inspected, documented, and rejected for non-compliance simply wasn't part of daily life. Drivers also routinely worked underneath raised cabs without proper locking mechanisms engaged. Cab tilt safety systems were basic, and many relied on trust rather than redundancy. You learned quickly which cabs were safe and which ones you kept an eye on. Crawling under a cab held up by hydraulics alone was dangerous, but it was done daily because there was work to be done and time was limited. Smoking in the cab was completely normal. Windows cracked open, ashtrays overflowing, smoke hanging thick in the air. No one thought twice about it. You smoked while driving, while fueling, while waiting on bays. Today it's banned outright, but in the 80s it was simply part of the environment. It affected alertness, air quality, and health, but those concerns came much later. Driving without seatbelts was another widespread practice. Some lorries weren't fitted properly, others had belts drivers didn't use. Many believed they were safer without them, especially at low speeds or in yards. Cab design reinforced that thinking. Belts were seen as optional rather than essential. It took years of injuries and fatalities for that mindset to change. Maintenance shortcuts were also far more common. Minor faults were lived with rather than reported. Lights taped instead of replaced. Mirrors adjusted rather than fixed. Brakes trusted longer than they should have been. You listened to the truck, you felt it. As long as it stopped and pulled, you kept going. Reporting every issue wasn't encouraged because downtime meant missed work. Perhaps the most striking difference was how responsibility was framed. If something went wrong, it was usually seen as the driver's fault regardless of circumstances. That attitude pushed drivers to take risks rather than admit problems. You didn't want to be the one who couldn't cope, so you adapted, improvised, and carried on. None of this was done out of recklessness. It was done because the system demanded it. The work didn't slow down for safety, the roads didn't get easier, and support structures that exist today simply weren't there. By modern standards, much of what British lorry drivers did in the 1980s is now banned outright. Not because drivers became weaker or less capable, but because the industry finally acknowledged the cost of pretending these risks were acceptable. And there were still more everyday practices from that era that quietly disappeared once rules tightened and expectations changed. And even beyond those everyday habits, there were still plenty of things drivers did in the 1980s that felt completely normal at the time, but would now shut a job down instantly. They weren't done out of bravado, they were done because the industry was built around coping, not compliance. One of those was reversing blind, often alone, in tight yards and streets without banksmen or cameras. If you needed to get into a space, you got in. Mirrors were basic, blind spots were huge, and you relied on instinct, memory, and the occasional shouted warning from someone nearby if you were lucky. Hopping out to check was common, but there was no formal process. Today, reversing without assistance in certain environments would be unthinkable. Back then, it was daily routine. Drivers also regularly carried passengers who had no business being in the cab, mates heading part of the way, fitters needing a lift back to the depot, family members on quiet runs. It wasn't seen as reckless, just practical. Extra seatbelts were rare, rules were vague, and enforcement was minimal. The cab was treated as shared space, not a controlled environment. Modern regulations ended that quietly but firmly. Fueling practices were another area where risk was accepted as normal. Engines left running, smoking nearby. No strict exclusion zones. You fueled quickly and got moving again. Diesel spills were shrugged off. Hands wiped on rags. It wasn't ideal, but it was how things worked when time mattered more than procedure. Today, even minor breaches would be serious offenses. Drivers also routinely drove vehicles that were technically overloaded. Not massively, not always, but enough to matter. Axle weights were guessed rather than measured. Loads were judged by feel and experience. If the truck pulled and stopped, you went. Weigh bridges existed, but they weren't always used. Enforcement wasn't constant. Overloading was treated as a grey area rather than a hard stop. What ties all of this together is not that drivers were reckless, it's that the system was built on endurance rather than protection. You coped because you had to. The rules that exist today didn't appear out of nowhere. They were written in response to injuries, fatalities, and close calls that piled up over decades. Many older drivers look back on that era with a mix of pride and disbelief. Pride that they survived it, disbelief that so much of it was ever allowed. Not because they think modern drivers are softer, but because they know how much unnecessary risk was carried quietly for so long. None of these changes came quickly. They came one rule at a time, one ban at a time. Each one tightening the job, but also making it safer. The work is still hard, the pressure is still there. But the expectation that drivers simply absorb danger has finally started to fade. And even with all that progress, the memory of how it used to be still lives on in the men who drove through it, who adapted to it, and who understand exactly why so many of those old habits are now firmly banned.